What's up, Denarians and Faye? This is Steven and Ben bringing you the latest Dresden Files. Well, our latest Dresden Files, at least. We're covering Small Favor by Jim Butcher. So, Ben, what did you think of this one?
Like we talked about last time, I think that we are just progressively getting better on the margins. So I'm excited to review this one. And you guys have hyped up changes a lot. So this book, the way I'm looking at it, is it's one book closer to changes.
Yeah, so this is book 10. Then you have Turncoat, which is 11, and Changes, which is 12. And honestly, Small Favor, I think, is one of the top Dresdens out there. Changes is awesome. There's a lot that goes on and rightfully gets a lot of hype. But this one is really solid as well. I think it is one of the more cohesive narratives. There's a lot going on, but also keeps you engaged, the entire time. Obviously, if there's a lot going on, but there's really no like dead weight here. It's pretty lean and it reads really well, and it's also got some nice big climactic action as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's going to be a lot of good discussions here with it.
Yeah, and I think we're just going to kind of get right into this one. We'll keep this review shorter. If you like Phantology, check us out on social media at Phantology Books, online at www.phantologybooks.com. We just started a new thing where we are going to alert you guys of upcoming recordings on Twitter, Discord, whatever. And then if it's something that grabs your interest, go ahead and send us in like a voice memo or a comment or question or quote, really whatever. We want you to be part of the recordings. And if we get some good stuff, we will do our best to respond to those things or even include your recording in our recording. But that said, let's go into Small Favor. And as we get into the plot, so we start off right away with kind of a fun scene at the Carpenters where they're having a snowball fight. And Molly is learning to use defensive magic in kind of this fun way where all of her younger siblings are throwing snowballs at her. So it's fun because you have this familial setting and you can tell how comfortable everyone is with each other, and it's a snowball fight. And then there's also magic happening as well. So, and I thought is a really nice way to integrate the known, a family setting, but also you have this unknown portion of the world with magic going on.
I think that it's interesting because we see Molly being trained by having snowballs thrown at her. At first, you're like, "Oh man, that's kind of like a crummy way to, learn magic." If you've ever been hit in the face with a snowball, it doesn't exactly feel good. But then we get this look into Harry's view where like his mentor used baseballs on him. And so it kind of shows you the difference between like Harry is like finding fun ways to, the stakes are still there, but it's more of a fun, lighthearted way to learn magic from Molly. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it shows you the difference between Harry's upbringing, which was a little harsher than Molly's, and it also shows you how awesome the Carpenter family is.
And then, the action just picks up right away with these gruff things.
Yeah, the Gruffs come in. So Gruffs are creatures of Fae. These are like your Billy Goat Gruffs, right? With the whole thing with the bridge, and they progressively get larger. So this was a fun way that Butcher interweaved a classic fairy tale into the story. So they jump in, they start fighting everyone, and Molly and Charity team up with Harry to ward them off. And Harry starts to speculate, okay, what's going on here? He thinks that maybe it's some fallout from the whole attack back in Proven Guilty in Arctic's tour. But then Bob tells him that actually no, the Gruffs are summer fae, not winter fae. So yeah, there's a mystery here. But before we investigate this one too much, Murphy calls in Harry for a different case. There is a destroyed building that's happened, so we're investigating. There appears to be some magical things going on here, and Harry finds this pentagram. And we also learned that the building is owned by Marcone, so things are already picking up, and several different factions are coming into play.
Whenever Marcone is mentioned, I kind of get a little bit excited because I think he's probably one of the characters I'm more interested in. Yeah, so I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed the fact that like that Murphy seems like she's going to play a little bit of a larger role in this one, so that's good.
So you said in the previous recording, our recording of Winter Night, that you weren't sure how much of a villain Marcone was because he seems just so like amicable a little bit. Like he's more of a frenemy than a villain. What
Yeah.
was your impression? So did that kind of continue through this one?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's out there defending little girls who also wield like the power of the universe, but he's out there still kind of defending what's right for the most part.
And in this one, Harry's going to actually have to defend Marcone. So the way that that happens is Harry summons Toot Toot, our resident pizza lover. The Zaw Lord summons him. Toot Toot's grown up a little bit, so that's fun to see. But then Nab comes in and interrupts him and shows Harry this vision of Marcone in the building. And we learned that Marcone's been kidnapped. And one of the favors that Harry owes Mab from back in the day is going to happen here, and she tells him that he needs to rescue Marcone. And she also says, "Hey, you should be my Winter Knight once again." And Harry says, yeah, no, thank you, I don't want to do that." And right as this happens, then we have the Gruffs interrupting again. The Gruffs are getting slowly more and more of a threat. These Gruffs come in with automatic weapons, and luckily Thomas comes in and rescues Harry in his Hummer. So I thought this was funny because this book was written like back in 2008 or so when Hummers were all the rage, and
Hummers
Thomas
were a
has one.
big thing. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You got like Arnold Schwarzenegger driving around California in a Hummer while talking about how important the environment is. It's great. This was a very interesting time for humanity.
Yeah, if you had a Hummer, you were way cool at this time. This was kind of like these were my high school years. I think there were a few kids who were rich and had Hummers, and they flexed those hard.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I
We
think
had
there
we
was
had
one,
one.
right? She had the
No,
Barbie Hummer.
she had a Barbie, but I thought it was like a Barbie truck. I thought it was like a lifted like F-150 or something.
It was something like that. If it wasn't a Hummer, it was something of kind of the same
Yeah.
vein.
Oh yeah. And when she park it in like was it the handicap spot? I think it was that she would park it in. Like somehow she managed to get like some special accommodation for it.
SMH on the
Uh,
Barbie Hummer.
Yeah, as I mentioned, yeah, it's funny because it's funny how stuff like that just sticks with you. Both of us remember it very well from high school, like just this entitled person rocking up with a pink car like that.
And Butcher obviously realizes this as well and puts it into his book because this is an iconic, but also kind of like a deep cut of culture back then. Like it's just a type of car, but it was so pervasive that it made it into these books. So that I really like how he does that. Just interweaves all of the all of the pop culture type things. Not even pop culture, but regular culture.
I find it funny when, because Harry just kind of has like this gritty personality, right? Where he doesn't expect much like creature comforts, and then he's like riding in the Hummer. He's like, "Ooh, actually, these like air conditioned seats are nice." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's like a little bit better than the Blue Beetle.
yeah, exactly. And he's like doesn't want to admit to himself that he likes these things, but they're nice.
He's a grumpy old man
Yeah,
to an extent. So the plot continues as Fix, who's the Summer Knight, shows up and threatens Harry through Tatiana. If he helps Mab, Thomas and Harry take him down. They realize that Fix is kind of under a bit of a gaze here. He's compelled to do this. So there's kind of this weird confrontation with Summer that's happening, and it doesn't quite make sense. Harry outsmarts Summer a little bit using Little Chicago and Mister. He puts it in like a catnip bag and makes Mister like bat it around Little Chicago, so that gets that gets the Gruffs off his trail. So a little smart way to use some of the magic that he has. And then Harry and Thomas go to investigate Marcone's gym slash brothel called Executive Priority Health, and they run into a confrontation between some of Marcone's lieutenants. So not only are the magical communities going after Harry, but now this dude named Torelli, who sounds just like an Italian gangster, is trying to move in on Marcone in his absence.
yeah. I thought it was interesting that like as powerful as Marcona is, he still has like infighting in his organization and people that are like looking to take advantage of the situation.
Which seems like a legitimate gangster thing. Like if you were running a mob family, that's what you would expect to have happen. At least that's what TV tells me I should expect to have happen.
Steven's moonlighting as like a special investigative like reporter for the mobs.
Yeah, that's my other side hustle.
That's
So not only are the mortals having problems here, but we're going to add another supernatural element as the Denarians get involved. So Harry and Thomas find Hendrix and Guard, who are both wounded. These are Marcone's lieutenants, and as they help them, the Denarians attack. So they claim that, hey, this is a private thing going on with Marcone, butt out. But Harry obviously can't do this, and he fights off this new Denarian that he calls Mantis Girl. He gets this like electric chain and uses it against her, and then Thomas actually kills another one, and then they all escape in the Hummer, and they head to the Carpenters, which is always like the last bastion of safety. And as they do so, Thomas has picked up one of the coins. Luckily, his hand is gloved, and Harry just kind of bags it for now. So, Harry's got a coin. That's going to be important, probably.
You would expect it to be, but then again, he just like I don't know. These coins seem like the end of the world, like when they were first introduced, and now they're just kind of like, got another coin.
So there's 30 of them total, and later on they're going to be used as part of the plot as a ransom for Ivy, who's been kidnapped. Yeah, I guess you're kind of right. Like they do seem like, oh my gosh, if you have a coin, everything's ending. But Harry has survived his encounter with the coin against all odds, and now there's more of them lying around. Maybe we don't think they're quite as scary as we did at first.
Right. I don't know. It's still like Harry still treats it like it's a serious thing though. Like he's like, "Don't touch that, Thomas." Puts in the glove box. So
Right. Like we wouldn't trust Thomas to be able to handle it. Harry apparently has overcome the coin,
right.
but no one else would be able to.
And this has like never happened apparently. So maybe this is hinting to like another special power that Harry has.
Maybe. And speaking of coins, so once we get to the Carpenters, Sonya is there. Sonya is one of the Knights of the Cross, and he has a cool backstory that we get. He used to be a Denarian. He was a coined monster, and Shiro, of the noble sacrifice back in book 5, saved him back at the time. His sword is still lying around. Harry needs to give that away to someone. And we also learned that both Shiro and Sonya were descendants of ancient kings. So I think Sonya especially was a descendant of Saladin, which is cool. We have some actual history being interwoven into the magic. So we've got fairy tales, we've got pop culture, we've got real history. This book just has it all.
I think it was also interesting that Harry told Molly to start looking at her family history. So I don't know if it's Molly that's thinking about being a sword bearer, or maybe Molly's mom. I don't know. Who do you think?
Well, I'm not going to tell you who I think because I'm current on the series, but who do you think?
Yeah, I would say it's either Molly or what's her mom's name again?
Charity?
Charity. There we go. Of course, because of course it is.
Yeah, and Charity is already an accomplished fighter, so that could make sense. Well, I guess we will see. So as the plot continues, Harry tricks the White Council. He calls them in as Guard, who is Marcone's assistant and also a Valkyrie, a warrior of the upcoming apocalypse. We'll see what happens there. So she's a Valkyrie, and she wants Harry to call in the White Council. Harry does so, and he tricks them by leading them to believe that Mab will close the Never Never unless they help to find Marcone, and that's going to be bad for them because they need the Never Never access in the fight with the Red Court that's ongoing and is kind of in the background. And Harry sets up a meeting with the Archive and with Lucio, who is I'm not sure if I said that right, but she is like the head warden that was introduced back in Deadbeat. And so they meet up at Max, which is neutral ground, the cool pub, and Murphy and Molly are along. They kind of discuss Murphy's involvement in things and her role in the police. We haven't seen Murphy a whole lot in the previous 2 books. I mean, she's been around, but hasn't been developed quite as much as we have here. So, Ben, like, what are you thinking of kind of Murphy's role in all of this at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really cool how Murphy kind of, when the big gruff appears, totally defends Harry's honor and like says, like uses the fact that she's not a part of the Accords to kind of wield some power and threaten the gruff. So that was awesome. I think that for being immortal and for having like a very limited understanding of how all these things works, that's very impressive that Murphy's able to navigate all the fine print of the wizarding rules to come out victorious in this situation. That was like a little bit unbelievable to me, but it was still cool to watch her defend Harry like that.
I think her and Marcone are really good foils for each other. They're two mortals that have access to. I mean, I guess Harry's mortal as well. So maybe I did just two unmagical people that have that that are part of this world. They don't necessarily know everything that's going on. Marcone kind of takes one route, which is the more of like the chaotic good. Maybe not even good, but chaotic neutral. He doesn't care for the law at all. But Murphy, on the other hand, is very much like on the lawful good side and needs to defend what is right and what is good. And so it's nice to see her shine in moments like these.
She's able, especially able to like use the law, even though it's not the law that she's vowed to follow, to like come out on top. So that's pretty cool.
So speaking of Murphy, she gets hit by some Torelli gunmen that come in, Marcone's lieutenant that's trying to take over, and they all head back to the Carpenters. Murphy's kind of helped out by Michael. She's not in too dire of straits here, but we also get some information about the whole situation with the Denarians. Apparently, Tessa, who is Nicodemus's ex, is in town as well, and so both of these guys together spells real bad news. And Harry and Michael get in this argument over faith. I think this is one of the stronger parts in the book where Michael explains that he thinks things are going to work out because he has faith in a higher power and he has faith in what is good. And Harry just kind of struggles with this because he's seen so many bad things happen and he just kind of struggles to rectify what's going on in the world. And I think that's something that we as humans always kind of struggle with. And so this was a stronger moment in the book.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean the whole book, especially whenever Michael's there, you always have like this tension between him and Harry, where it's like the faith versus like the realism that, and but we know by the end of this that it's really going to require some faith on Michael's part. Let's just say.
And he continues to have faith, which is really strong. It's going to be a really strong thing kind of going into the future books as well. And honestly, like I've said this before, Dresden Files can sometimes be a little bit pulpy and a little bit just kind of fun, but there are also really strong moments like this which make you stop and consider just what's going on in your life, etc. And I think there's a lot of value to that, and fantasy books have that. And when people diss on fantasy and say it's just pulpy fiction and doesn't have any value, that kind of sets me off a little bit because moments like these have really helped me in my life reading this kind of stuff.
Yeah, totally agree.
So the plot continues, and we go to Union Station, which is it's fun to see these big time locations in Chicago. We've talked before about our Dresden tour of Chicago that Phantology is going to do one day in the near future. So tune in for that, and we're going to head to Union Station to recap the battle here that happens with the Hobbs, which are like hobgoblin type things, and they can summon this unnatural darkness. Harry and Michael are there to try to get a hair sample from Arcone to chase him down, and they get into this fight with them. Harry hits the sprinklers smartly, which kind of dissipates their magic. Michael kills a bunch of them and shows how powerful he is. But then the huge Gruff appears again, and then everyone kind of fights because the Gruff is winter, or the Gruff is summer, and the Hobbs are winter. And then they all get into it, and then Harry tricks them using the security spell on the storage locker they're trying to get to. This was a fun moment. We've got a lot of different action going on here.
Yeah, I agree. I really didn't follow like the whole sprinkler because Harry also has to like use magic in combination with the water, and like apparently that took away the darkness. I didn't understand it. I like went back and re-listened to it to see if I could figure it out. I still couldn't really understand it.
Well, so he used the sprinklers to dissipate the Fey magic
But like, why does water dissipate it?
because of plot reasons. I don't know, like water and iron, it works.
Kind of. I don't know. That was a little weird. It was a little forced to me. I'm like, I feel like if you create a problem and then you should have a like fulfilling way to solve that problem, not just sprinklers. I don't know.
in the backstory of all of these, Fey stories, it's fine for Butcher to draw upon water as something that dissipates magic because it's been done before. It's not like he's the first one to say, okay, yeah, water's going to dissipate it. It works, but I do see what you're saying as well because he just as easily could have said, oh, water doesn't do it because I'm the one creating the world.
I guess I was looking for some cooler way to resolve it. But the fact that they use kind of like this security spell, I guess I was also wondering because like it's not really clear what happens. Like there's some big explosion and the gruff like doesn't have a leg anymore or something. But like, is it just like pure magical energy that wouldn't have been noticed if it was opened in another way?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact details, but I guess my impression was just there was this magical energy that was set on the storage locker, and if you didn't open it correctly, then it was going to a bomb was going to go off, and so Harry set that, and it used it on the Gruff.
Well, so to kind of fill in a little bit more details, I mean, it's been a few weeks since I read it too, but like when Guard was telling him about it, she said, "Don't stand directly in front of it," and so like Harry kind of like timed it so that he could open it, and like the Gruff would be standing in front of it. So then like it takes out the Gruff, but like you're in the middle of like a public space, you know, you can't just expect to go open this and have like this massive bomb go off.
Well, I guess we can because that's how the magical community doesn't care too much about what the regular humans think, what the Muggles think.
That's true. I guess, yeah,
That's one of the bigger themes of Dresden Files is that people don't believe what's right in front of them, and there's all this magic happening, but people are like, yeah, whatever.
I agree with that. It just seemed like also like she was keeping these things. Maybe she wasn't using them all the time, but like whoever she needs to have leverage on, she needs like access to those things. So I don't know. To me, it was kind of confusing. This I enjoyed all the action, but I just didn't think that it was kind of deserved at this part in the book.
So putting a bomb on your secure stuff doesn't seem to make sense, is what you're saying?
Yeah, like I could see like you open it up and like there's like a little poison blow dart that like goes out like Indiana Jones style or something. But
Sure.
this kind of large scale carnage of anytime you want access to your vault seems like Green Got level security, like the basement of Green Gots, and not just I don't know.
Okay, so maybe a little bit of overkill and not the smartest way to handle it. Yeah, that's a fair criticism, I suppose. But as the plot continues, so Harry grabs the box with Marcone's hair, and then he meets up with Ivy and Kincaid and Lucio, who are all there, fortunately, at the end of the battle. So they don't take part in the battle, but they are there to meet up with Harry and Michael afterwards. And Lucio's hot and maybe hitting on Harry, so that's a thing, as always, right? Uh, and then everyone's gonna kind of like meet up and we do our little war council thing, and we all head off to the aquarium, the big aquarium in Chicago called Shed Aquarium, and we meet up with Nicodemus, and Nicodemus requests a private conversation with Harry, and he seems to know about the Black Council and the attack in Arctic's Tour that's been a mystery since Small Favor, and it seems like maybe some of the Denarians are part of the Black Council. We're definitely not sure. But then Harry realizes he's being stalled and that Ivy is the real target, the archive that stores all of the memories. And so as this action begins, we just kind of go from one climax to another. But I remember this aquarium part really well. This was a highlight of the series for me.
Yeah, I agree. Super fun. And I, okay, I'm just gonna say I don't really love Ivy, the archive. I
Yeah,
don't. I don't love the character because I just feel like I don't real like there hasn't been as much time spent developing this super important character as I wish that there would have. And this, I guess, is when she is developed. But it seemed like her and Harry are mutually willing to like give each other's lives up for each other, and I just don't see that happening after like the limited interactions that they have.
like you've been told how important she is, but you're like,
Right.
haven't really been showed how important she is.
Yeah, and you've been shown that she has power, and she like, and I guess like theoretically, like having all the information in the world is powerful, but like, why is this important? Like, or why does this even exist? Also, like, again, I know that Harry gives her a name, but like, I don't know. I enjoy the character because I can see how being in a little girl's body with a little girl's mind, but with all the information of the world, that makes for an interesting character. But I just don't feel like the character has been given the screen time that she deserves to really have this outsized role in the plot right now.
I think that's a fair criticism. I could see Dresden Files existing without the archive and doing just fine. But she is important in this book, and it kind of develops her. And let's see what happens in the next ones, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So this fight, the Denarians are kind of setting up some kind of spell. Harry manifests this new ability. He creates this giant silvery hand, kind of like Voldemort creating the new hand for Pettigrew a little bit. But Harry can control this, and he uses it to fight. But it really drains him a lot, so we're not sure what this is, but it seems kind of cool. The Denarians use this gas, which affects Ivy more because she's a child, and it works. And they take Ivy. Harry breaks the glass, flooding the entire aquarium, which is a nice climax. But this is a fail for our heroes because the Denarians definitely win the battle of Shed Aquarium. Ivy and Marcone are taken, but luckily we have the coins. So now the idea is we're going to make a trade. We're going to trade the coins for Ivy and Marcone because it'd be way bad if these guys got coined by the Denarians, and Michael and Sanya are not okay with this, but we kind of decide that like this is the best way to go. And then Nicodemus comes out to negotiate, but he actually refuses the deal. Harry throws in the sword as well. So we're going to kind of see what happens here. And then once again, we're getting into another climax. So there's a lot of action going on here. What was your sense of what was going to go on here with all these negotiations, Ben?
Lots of action. I thought that the sword was a nice touch. If it wasn't for the sword, I would have been like, whatever. Like the coins are important to Michael, not so important to Harry. Turns out not so important to Nicodemus. But once you get the sword, because I thought it was interesting, because the coins are just important in so much as they help Nicodemus bring about the end of the world. But now that he has Ivy, he can do that. But the thing is, like the swords will survive and still kind of continue to be a thorn in his side. So like the chance to eliminate one of those, I thought was like a believable incentive for him.
Yeah, the sword, and this is going to be continual thing going on as Nicodemus tries to take out the swords. We'll kind of see what happens with those in the future books. So another plot thing that has happened, if there's not enough going on already, apparently Harry's mind has been tampered with a little
Yeah,
bit, and they actually figure out what's happening here. Well, they don't really figure out till the very end, but this was something where it's like, okay, there's already so much going on here, and now also Harry's mind is being messed with. I don't know. I thought maybe we didn't really need this.
yeah, super weird. This was like feel like Butcher's attempt to like do the unreliable narrator theme.
A little bit, yeah.
But yeah, like what did it add to the plot? It kind of went back and explained a few weird decisions, but like who like was it Mav or who messed with his mind?
Mad did.
Yeah, but why? Like and about the blasting rod, why the blasting rod? Confusing, super confusing. But I did enjoy the fact that like it showed how important Molly was to him, where she was able to kind of like help him in this regard.
Yeah, she has some unique magical abilities here that are going to help out. Yeah, I don't remember the exact details. We're going to have to go on a Patreon and update you guys on what these details are because I think we're butchering it here. But yeah, I do agree with you that maybe it wasn't quite necessary.
Steven, did you intend for that butcher pun there, or was that just all natural?
No, I've been doing that for every Dresden review. Whenever we mess up, I always say butcher.
Maybe I okay, fair.
It's a pathology deep cut.
Apparently, it was so deep that the Pantology co-host didn't even know about it.
Yeah, I'm on another level here with my podcasting narration ability. So the meeting that's happening. So we finally have we're set up for the final climax of Small Favor, and we're going to meet at this island. And as we go to the island, it's strangely familiar to Harry. So what is this? This seems strange. This is explained as well. This is better, and I can give you some solid reasons for this one. At least it is quite important going forward. But we get to the island and we try to rescue Ivy, but really we just kind of all fight pretty quickly. And then luckily, Guard comes in on a helicopter, I think blasting some music, and rescues everyone. But as they're getting evacuated, Michael's climbing up the ladder to get out of there, and he's shot several times. They get him out of there, but it's looking way bad. And this was a moment where you're like, oh snap, like this is someone we actually care about, and he may be dead.
Yeah. Yeah, that was intense. And it was also intense because like Harry tried to like put him on the helicopter rope to ensure that he survived because he saw Guard kind of like looking a little bit funny at him.
She has this ability to like see someone who's about to die, kind of like this foresight.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Like it kind of goes to show that you can't change fate. You end up when you try, you end up playing into fate's hands. So I thought it was cool. I never really believed that Michael was gonna die. I don't know, just because Dresden Files hasn't upped the stakes to that level yet. So until any book ups the stakes, you don't believe that the stakes exist.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you said in White Knight that you thought that Lachelle being killed off was the first major death, and she was, a pretty ancillary character. So
Right.
we haven't seen any big ones drop yet. We'll see.
Yeah. Shut up. I feel like until I get to changes, I just have like this like cloud over my head of like everybody knows something I don't.
Yeah, you're a Dresden noob. It's okay.
This is like I'm still watching the first season of Game of Thrones or something.
Yeah, yeah. So we actually watched. I remember watching the Red Wedding with you, and you hadn't seen it. You hadn't read the book, so you didn't know what was coming. And so we were watching it like trying to film you or something. And I think your mouth just kind of dropped and you like slumped down during
Red
that
Wedding
episode.
was intense. Yeah, that was big. Okay, okay. Anyway,
Yeah. So as we get to the wrap up here, so Harry kind of loses it and he kills Tessa with this supercharged firebolt. Whenever Harry gets whenever Harry's emotions get too riled up, he can blast off some big magic. And then the eldest Gruff shows up. So finally, we have the culmination of the Gruffs. And the eldest Gruff is not as big as you might think. He's kind of this diminutive wizard type, but he has 3 stoles of senior council wizards on his shoulder. So he's killed 3 senior White Council members. And then Harry is able to trick him to buy him off by using his summer leaf token favor thing to say, hey, go get me a donut and also make sure there are sprinkles on it. I mean, this was funny, but maybe a little cheesy.
I don't know. To me, this was super fun. I don't. This just kind of encapsulates like what makes like kind of the magic sauce that Dresden Files has. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the way that they were like speaking super formally to each other when they were like setting up the deal.
Right.
You know.
And you think the whole time Harry's just kind of doing this tongue in cheek, and he never takes things too seriously. Like, one of his best friends has just been shot, but he's still able to joke here. He's asking out women, like he asks out Lucio kind of right as all this is happening. So he's able to always keep a level head. Very impressive.
Yeah, 10 points to Harry right there.
10 points to Gryffindor, and Harry hops on the boat. He has the showdown with Nicodemus. He chokes him with his noose one more time. He loses the coins. They all escape. Harry jumps overboard. Thomas and Murphy rescue him. Murphy draws Fidelicius, the sword of faith, just a tiny bit, and the light shoots out and blinds Deidre, one of the Denarians. And so maybe there's some hints that Murphy might be taking up a sword because she's able to wield it. She doesn't actually pull it out. She just pulls it out of the scabbard enough to make a difference. So maybe that adds to your sword theory.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I for sure was in the Murphy camp until this, but she kind of refuses it at the end.
She does refuse it. She says she just wants to, be a mortal officer of the law. But I don't know, like maybe the sword kind of chooses the wizard a little bit. We'll
Yeah.
see. Another going full on Harry Potter here at the end of the podcast. So they all head off to the hospital to kind of wrap up. Michael's in surgery, seriously wounded. His life is in balance, and Harry's pretty ticked off at this point. And going back to the conversations he's had about faith previously, he goes to the chapel of the hospital. He's really angry with God, and he has this theological talk with this janitor, Jake the janitor, who appears to be a lot wiser than you might expect from a janitor. And he references this helping hand, which ties back obviously to this magic that Harry did with the silvery hand prior. And so this was a fun conversation, and I really like these themes in this one.
Yeah, for sure. And you're kind of left with who the heck this janitor guy is. It kind of alludes to like the fact that like there's all this stuff going on behind the scenes that Harry's not really. He's kind of just tangentially aware of them.
And we do know who the janitor is by the end of the book. Mab comes in and drops the truth bomb here. She kind of
Wait, who was
explains
he?
a little bit of the backstory. So the janitor Jake is Uriel the angel.
Oh, sure.
Apparently, you missed that in your read through.
Yeah. Is that in this one?
Yeah, it's in this book. This is when Mab also explains that she's the one who altered his memory and took the blasting rod. But she also explains, about the janitor, and she says that Harry still owes her one more favor, and she had him do all this because he needed her to defend her accords and also get revenge for the Arctis Tor attack. So this is some backstory on what's going on with the Black Council. Maybe Michael survives, but he may need some serious assistance for the rest of his life. Unclear how he'll do in PT. And then Sonya gives Harry Michael's sword as well. So now Harry has two swords if one wasn't enough to entrust Harry Dresden with. And Murphy turns down being a knight. And then we also learned the magic Harry was doing was called Soul Fire, which depletes his soul to use, and it's the power of angels, but it's super powerful. But he can't use it too much, or he could exhaust himself entirely. So Soul Fire is cool, and Harry's magical repertoire is being built up.
Yeah. But we don't like he doesn't really know how he did it though, right? He just like summoned more energy. To me, he was still kind of confused about it.
Uriel is giving him this power. That's what he's saying when he says, like, we
Oh,
gave you a helping hand. He's
oh,
now, being like favored by angels.
okay, fair enough.
That's how I took it, at least.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like this is kind of a theme of one of the things I dislike about the Dresden books is the fact that like at the end of the book, you have to be given like this explanation of things that happened, and I end up just kind of zoning out during it because I'm like, if I didn't figure it out during the book, then like I hate the fact that I have to be like explicitly told it. I don't know. It kind of just seems like, and this has happened in a few books. Yeah, not the biggest fan of this style.
So yeah, Ben, that sounds like that was your worst of the best. Like you really liked the plot, but at the same time, you're thinking it could have been more integrated to the point where you didn't have to have that whole full on explanation at the end of the book. And yeah, I kind of agree with that. I'll say that's mine as well. To wrap up here, also mention that Harry and Lucio get together, and she explains his like wizard site that's coming in with the island. So this is something that's going to be important into his future. And that is the book. That's our review of Small Favor. If you like Phantology, check us out at Phantology Books. We have a Discord server that we'd love for you to chat with us and correct our mistakes, which we probably made in this recording. So hopefully you are forgiving of us. We are just simple first time readers that are doing our best here. If you like what we're doing though, we also have a Patreon that has some different tiers. We're live streaming again in a couple days. Actually, tomorrow we're live streaming and covering news from August, from the month of August. So go ahead and check that out. And yeah, so that's a wrap. Thanks, Ben, for joining. It's been a review of Small Favor by Jim Butcher, and we'll see you guys next time.